Look at this photograph of a crowded mid-century factory floor. You see dense, overlapping infrastructure and multiple workers operating heavy machinery in close proximity. The physical reality of industrial work is inherently hazardous. To audit a facility like this properly, we have to look closely at Phase 2 of our compliance sequence, focusing specifically on Chapter 4 of the Factories Act, 1948, Sections 27 through 36A. Earlier sections dealt with static hazards, like fencing off a motor. The middle of Chapter 4 targets dynamic, atmospheric, and structural hazards. These are the forces that move, break, and suffocate. We assess these risks across 3 specific operational categories: vertical and kinetic dynamics, structural integrity, and confined space protocols. The Act removes subjective judgment entirely in these areas. You cannot rely on an operator's good sense. The law replaces human discretion with rigid numerical limits and mandatory testing cycles. Failing to meet these specific thresholds is a direct breach of Section 7A. That is the occupier's absolute, non-delegable statutory duty to ensure a safe working environment. The law distinguishes lifting systems. Hoists have restricted vertical movement via guides, while overhead cranes move freely. Section 28 mandates hoists be examined every 6 months. Personnel hoists must have interlocking gates, preventing movement unless closed. Cranes follow Section 29, requiring 12-month examinations. Every single one of these examinations must be entered into a prescribed register. If the safety check is not officially documented, the law treats it as if it never happened. This photograph of a heavy crane hook illustrates the immense physical forces these systems support. Section 29 demands that the safe working load be plainly marked on the lifting machine itself. Loading beyond that marked threshold is strictly illegal. There is also a rigid spatial rule. If a person is working near the wheel track of a traveling crane, you must take effective measures to ensure that crane does not approach within 6 meters of their position. This image captures the intense shower of sparks from an abrasive wheel, demonstrating the high kinetic energy at play in revolving machinery. Section 30 governs this energy. It mandates that a permanently affixed notice must be placed near the machine, indicating the maximum safe working peripheral speed of the grindstone and the shaft. That specified speed cannot be exceeded. This photograph shows a complex array of heavy industrial turbines and pipes. Section 31 regulates these high-pressure systems, legally requiring effective measures to guarantee that the safe working pressure of any plant or machinery is never breached. Regarding specific equipment risks, Section 27 outright prohibits the employment of women and children anywhere near a working cotton opener, unless an inspector has specifically approved a partition separating the feed end from the delivery end. Vertical and kinetic safety cannot rely on operator skill. The law dictates absolute reliance on rigid numeric thresholds and documented temporal testing cycles. We move from machinery to the ground beneath the worker's feet. The physical infrastructure of the factory floor carries its own strict liability. Section 32 addresses the baseline. All floors, stairs, passages, and gangways must be of sound construction. They must be actively maintained and kept strictly free from obstructions or substances that could cause a person to slip. When work moves off the ground, the requirements escalate. If a person has to work at a height where they are likely to fall, the occupier must provide safe means of access and secure the area with fencing or equivalent safeguards. This isometric diagram also illustrates Section 33. A fixed sump pit in the floor is a severe hazard. The statute removes ambiguity. A warning sign is legally insufficient. The opening must be securely covered or fenced. Shifting to human ergonomics, Section 34 strictly prohibits employing any person to lift, carry, or move a load so heavy that it is likely to cause them bodily injury. If a manufacturing process creates flying particles or excessive light, Section 35 makes protective gear a statutory mandate. Providing effective screens or suitable goggles is a legal requirement, not an optional workplace perk. Structural safety eliminates the use caution defense. The occupier is mandated to engineer the physical environment to protect workers, regardless of their own behavior. A heavy steel hatch opens to reveal the cavernous interior of an industrial vat. Confined spaces are the primary source of invisible, multi-fatality industrial incidents. Section 36 sets an absolute baseline. No person is allowed to enter any chamber, tank, or pit where dangerous gas or dust is likely present unless it has a manhole of adequate size or another effective means of egress. Before anyone crosses that threshold, all practical measures must be deployed to remove any dangerous fumes and bring the atmosphere within permissible limits. Entry is illegal without a physical test. A competent person must provide a written certificate proving the space is gas-free. If not, workers require breathing apparatuses and external lifelines. To prevent explosions, Section 36A restricts portable lights to 24 volts inside. If inflammable gas or dust is likely present, voltage limits alone are not enough. The lamp itself must be of strictly flame-proof construction. Environmental hazards defeat human senses. Compliance in a confined space requires total reliance on exact electrical engineering and zero-tolerance instrumentation. This wide blueprint synthesizes the exact locations where these statutes apply. We see the crane hooks, the hoist interlocks, the floor pits, and the confined vats forming a single interconnected compliance web. Sections 27 through 36A do not ask management to simply be careful. They demand that safety is hard engineered into the physical limits of the facility. Every limit must generate documented proof. When a state inspector arrives, they do not audit a factory's intentions. They audit its written registers, its safe working load markings, and its confined space certificates. For environmental health and safety professionals, mastering these numeric thresholds and spatial rules is the only way to protect both the individual worker and the enterprise. Verify your compliance mathematically, test it temporally, and ensure every shift ends exactly as safely as it began.